Hey everyone, this is Austin Bach coming to you from the Magic Online Beta client, and we are testing out some Amonkhet Standard. So a couple things to note before we get into the deck. The first is that this spoiler season is a pretty exciting one for me because I am qualified for the next Pro Tour in Nashville next month. So definitely going to be playing a lot of Standard in the next couple weeks, testing out some of the new decks. So look out for that in the next couple of days. Second thing is, we haven't gotten the ban list announcements yet, and I'm not going to lie, Mardu pretty much beats everything in my early testing, so I'm not about to say that a lot of these decks I'm going to brew are going to be able to beat Mardu, or maybe even Saheeli, but we're going to have to wait and see until the ban list announcement. But of course, that's no reason to try out any of the new cards and see what some of the powerful strategies are, regardless of how well positioned they may be. But with that being said, let's get into the deck. This is a deck built around new perspectives, which the reason it's in the deck is that it essentially lets you cycle cards for 0. So if you have a deck full of cycling cards, it essentially allows you to draw your entire deck when you play it. But you may be asking yourself, why would we want to do that? Like, what is the point of drawing your deck after tapping out for a 6-mana enchantment? Because, what are you supposed to do with it? But let's start over here. We've got all the cheap cycling cards. 1-mana cyclers here. Haze of Pollen is a 3-mana cycler, but it also just keeps you alive, which is useful even though it's the most expensive cycler in the deck. So you're just trying to draw cards and look for your new perspectives. And in the meantime, you can obviously cast their front side just to counter something or draw cards and just keep your game plan rolling. We've also got some of the cycling lands to both make your land drops and cycle to find the new perspectives and go off with the new perspectives. So once you get this down, you can sort of quote-unquote go off. So we've got 4 Sheffet Monitor, which when you cycle it for free, it gets you a basic land out of your deck, and it does not say tapped, which means you can go get an untapped land and essentially net a mana when you cycle it for 0. It's also 4 Vizier of Tumbling Sands, which untaps a permanent when you cycle it, so it also nets you a mana. So once you start digging through your deck with the new perspectives, you're trying to find a couple copies of these to make mana, and then you're going to cast Shadow of the Grave, which allows you to rebuy everything you've cycled this turn. So after you've played the new perspectives, you cycle your hand until you run out of cyclers, cast Shadow of the Grave, return like all those dozen or so cards that you just cycled, go through the whole process again. That essentially allows you to, this is kind of like a Past in Flames in this deck. You're just trying to draw your whole deck, and once you've drawn your whole deck and gotten up to about 4 mana or so from your untapping abilities, you're going to cast a Noose Constrictor, and now that you have like 20-ish cards in your hand, you're going to discard your entire hand to the Noose Constrictor, and then you're going to fling the Noose Constrictor at your opponent's face. So that is the win condition. So yeah, this is pretty much just full-blown glass cannon combo deck. To round out the deck, we've got a couple copies of Negate to protect ourselves. Kind of nice because once you draw your deck, if you go for like Noose Constrictor Flaying and then they have like a counterspell for your Flaying, if for some reason they like weren't able to counter your new perspectives or whatever, or just as you're going along to keep yourself alive, counter a Planeswalker or whatever you need to do. There's also 1 copy of Compelling Deterrence. The only reason this is in here is because I'm slightly worried about the card Gideon of the Trials, which is a new card that I'm sure is going to be seeing a lot of Standard play. If they play that card and they make an emblem with him, our deck can no longer win the game because we can fling at our opponent and put them to 0, but then the Gideon emblem prevents them from dying. So what this does is it allows us to bounce whatever Gideon they have, because they can only have 1 in play at a time, regardless of if it's Gideon of the Trials or Ally of Zendikar. Bounce it back to their hand, and then the fling will be lethal. So that is the deck. I know that was a little difficult to explain, but I guess we'll have to go into some matches and you guys can figure out what's going on. As for the sideboard, as with all of my sideboards, when I brew up a new deck, I have no idea on any of the numbers, but we've got 4 Drakehaven and 4 Faith of the Devoted, which are alternate win conditions. Post board, if your opponent's playing like a control deck, or if they have sideboard hate like Lost Legacy or anything like that, You're going to need more ways to win the game, because you can't just rely on the New Perspectives combo to do it. A couple Scarab Feasts and Renewed Faiths, just some more utility cyclers. If you're playing like a burn deck, you can bring this in. Playing against a graveyard strategy, you can bring this in. A couple Dispels, just more ways to protect the combo. So like on turn 7, you can go for Perspectives with Dispel backup and still combo off through a counter spell. And one Sunscorched Desert might require a little explanation, because one thing about Sheffet Monitor is when you cycle it, you can also go get a desert, not just a basic land. So you can go put this into play, ping your opponent for 1, which is relevant if they attempt to Saheeli combo you, because they minus the Saheeli on their Felidar Guardian. You, in response, you Sheffet Monitor cycle to go kill their Saheeli. So that's why that's there. But other than that, I don't think there's much more I can explain other than, showing you how it's done.